Network. The whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so prove them and stand out to something. Today on the KeithAndrewNetwork, we sit down with Carrie Collins, professional, upcoming actress, and instructor. Now, with that being said, we had a fantastic episode. Make sure, if you're watching this, share on all social medias. This will be played and aired on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our goal for part 2 is to reach 100 and more views. Definitely comment. And a big shout out to our guest today. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to hear the recommendation video.
Hi, I'm Carrie Collins, and I have been interviewed by Keith Andrew on the Keith Andrew Network, and he is doing a wonderful job as a host, and I recommend him. So please go to his Facebook, well, you can go to his Facebook and his Instagram and his YouTube and subscribe.
We're back from the commercial break, and as you heard from the introduction, today is episode 971. That is right, 971. We're closing the gap to 1,000, reaching our first goal on the Keith Andrew Network. But this is not about me, it's about our beautiful and talented guests. So the first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the type of work that you do.
Hi, I'm Carrie Collins. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I have 3 children, a 21-year-old stepdaughter and a 9 and 6-year-old sons. And I have been an actress since 2015.
No, absolutely. It's all about having the heart and passion about doing what you love.
Yes, it is.
Now, you mentioned acting. The next question I was going to ask you is, what did you major in? Did you major in acting?
No. I actually, once I graduated, I just decided I wanted to work, and where I worked at a place called Quick Trip, and I just wanted to move up the ladder there. And I've always wanted to be an actress, but I was never confident enough, like when I was younger. And it didn't really fall into my lap until I was in my 30s.
Well, let me ask you this. For people with disabilities who want to follow in your footsteps, what are the do's and don'ts? Because you are a perfect example. So what are the do's that they should follow, and what are the don'ts and don't do this? Because it didn't work for me, it's not going to work for you.
So the don'ts at my age, is that what you're saying?
Well, how do you start your career?
Okay, so the do's is, you get a headshot, a professional headshot, you take classes, and then you kind of start looking for agents, and then you branch on from there, and you'll start meeting a lot of different people, and it just goes from there. Don't be late. Follow through with what you are going to say that you're going to do, because if you don't, then you're going to get on this list of this person is not a good fit. There's a lot. Well,
let me ask you this. What are we'll stay with the don'ts, because that's really important, because people always say, do this, do that. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned you are working with a company that represents you. Now, this is a perfect example for the don'ts. Number 1, honest opinion that I ask everyone, do you pay for representation, and do you pay for someone to represent you?
No. If they ask for money, then you need to run. They will, the legit agencies will not ask for money. The only thing that you have to pay for are your headshots. That's it.
No, that's absolutely right. I agree with you. Now, because there's so many scam artists out there, I say, hey, you want to be on Fox News? Oh, who the hell wants to be on Fox News? Long story. But hey, you want to be on Fox News? You want to be on CNN? You want to be on television? Give me 15 seconds. Give me 30 seconds. Give me
Mm-hmm.
10. And you never get someone who's a legit. Hey, give me 5 seconds. Because, it's always something 15, 20, 30. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I know this is not going to work out, but let's humor you. And they will sell you and tell you everything. Every time I talk to them, it's always the same damn thing with me. Do you have a book? Well, you should write a book. You should definitely write a book. Well, you should do this. Okay, well, I will hire someone. Oh, we can do that for you. And then at the end of the conversation, they can sell. Well, my grandfather used to say, they will sell you ice in the winter. So they
Mm-hmm.
would tell you everything that you want to hear, and at the end of the conversation, well, we're going to start working with you, but you have to pay an upfront fee about $2,000, $800, and I'm like, going into the call, I knew the bottom was going to drop out, but I always argue, get advice from my brother, and he
Mm-hmm.
says, you do not pay someone to represent you. Once you make money, they get a percentage.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and you can relate to this, you find more con artists out there and take advantage of you. So, I didn't mean go on that real rant, I apologize.
No, you're
The
fine.
question I want to ask you is, have you ever been taken advantage of, and have you ever been hook, line, and sinkered?
Yeah, the very first place I went to get represented, they did get me for money. I think it was like 700 and something dollars. I don't remember. It was something. Now, don't get me wrong. I did get a few gigs, but I mean, it's one of those things that you're literally paying a fee and you're like, why am I paying this fee? Like, there's no reason I should pay this fee just to get into your agency. But after that, I knew I actually reached out to somebody a few years later and had a conversation with them. And then she actually sat down and told me step by step what I needed to do after that. And then so I went from there and then got out of that and went to other agencies and knew what to look for after that. After sitting down and talking to somebody that's been in the entertainment business for, I think, years, like 10 plus years, um, that's when I knew. I'm like, okay, now I know what I need to look for and who I need to look for and what they can bring to the table for me.
No, absolutely, and I do apologize if you hear my dog barking in the background.
It's
I
okay.
really, I really want to make my room soundproof because every time I try to do an interview, I have the dog barking, I have my family members yelling or arguing. That's like, why is it when I do something, it turns into a whole shit show, but when they do something, I have to shut up, stay away, stay in my room, don't make a noise. But God forbid I do it, it's like a freaking circus.
It's always like that. It's like that for me as well. Always. But I have two small children that are constantly like holding onto my shirt. It's like, no, I gotta do this. Stop, leave me alone. Yeah, it's rough.
And then once you become famous, they're like, oh, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Is your family very supportive of you? When you started your career, were they telling you it's not going to work out? You're setting yourself up for failure. You should really be doing something else. Were they very supportive, or were they waiting for the bottom to fall out?
Um, I think some were supportive. The ones that were supportive now, they were not supportive when I was 18, 19, saying that I wanted to move to LA. They talked me out of it, which I thanked them later because I realized I was not mature enough to, be in this business and go to LA and move up. They probably would have put a red X on over my name, like no, because I was very immature back then. But so the ones that are supportive now were the ones that weren't supportive then. But there were a few that it took them maybe 4 years to finally come around and go, okay, she is mature. She knows what she's doing. She has a goal, and they see it because every year I get better and better. I'm taking classes, and the more you take classes, the more you branch yourself out, the more gigs you're going to get. So, and I think that they started to finally realize that, and then so now they are behind me. But in the very beginning, it was like 50-50.
No, I agree. When I first started as my mom's my biggest supporter. She's like, "Oh, I didn't want to hurt your feelings because I know you're very sensitive. I thought you may get one or two people. I never thought you would get close to this many." My dad says, "Do what you enjoy. It's not a real." He likes telling me it's not a real job. You're not making money out of it, but do what makes you happy. But I'm telling you now, the first time someone shows up, the first time someone shows up at the front door, your ass is on the street. um, my brother doesn't really give me a lot of advice because one of my problems is I don't follow directions.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything because I'm going to waste my time because you don't listen, you don't follow directions. I mean, okay, yes, it's true, but I'm working on it at a slow pace. But no, I'm showing you for 9.5 years, I taught myself the whole entire process, from reading cards, dressing professional, doing the background. I read and learn at a middle school to high school level. I fall
Mm-hmm.
under the spectrum of being retarded because I give you an example. Here's a script. And read the script. It's, I don't know, hypothetically has a multiple choice question on it. I would have someone sit with me and can you read this line for me? Can you explain it? Can you break it down? Can you just do it at a slower pace? Well, it's easier for me to process. And people are like, they don't learn like that. Either they give you the script, you read the line, okay, thank you for auditioning. Because I
Mm-hmm.
learn at a slower pace, all these red flags go up and saying, why are you putting yourself in this position? You're wasting your time. You know what I mean? It's all these
Mm-hmm.
things is what could go wrong, but I don't know. It's just one of those BSs that it's kind of like that's the same thing from my show. No, hey, I didn't go to college. I don't have a master's degree. I don't. People say I have a master's in BS because I talk out of my ass. Or my dad says I have diarrhea of the mouth. Maybe that's why I'm a good talk show host because I don't shut up. But I'm teasing myself at my own pace, and a lot of people say that's great and wonderful, but at hindsight, it's not what people expect. They expect you to go in, shut up, and do what you told,
Mm-hmm.
and don't answer back. To me, I'm kind of the opposite, where I have to, and of course, people make fun of me for saying this, I have to feel it out. And I don't mean that in a perverted kind of way. I
Right.
feel it out is I have to feel the energy.
Mm-hmm.
I have to feel the environment. I have to look around and say, okay, this is what it's expected of the job. I feel comfortable being here. And okay, that's it. You don't, I have made a horrible habit of doing things half-ass where I would jump right into it. I set myself up for failure. And actually, that's a question I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
When you first started your acting career, are you guilty of doing things half-ass?
Yes, I I have ADD, attention deficit disorder, and it's chaos. It's There are times where I will start something, or start an audition. A couple times I've started an audition and then I've just like had to stop and because it was just like so much going on. But yeah, it's bad. It's what my brain is constantly going and I can't shut it off. And if it gets too much, I have to stop and go to something else. It's a lot.
No,
Just even
absolutely.
talking is a lot. I'm just like, I don't, so I want to say a whole bunch on this side, but then there's like a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on in my brain over here. Yeah. So that's why when you said do an interview, I'm like, I'm going to look so bad.
Well, I usually save this for the end, but I think you're amazing, so I'm gonna pass the show over to you early. And so this is anything you want to talk about, anything you want to ask me. I have no cards up my sleeve, but I want you to be brutally honest. When
Okay.
I first messaged you about being on my show, what was your first reaction? What made you say yes?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel now? Would you recommend it to other people?
Um, so my first thought was, yeah, my first interview. Okay, I'll do this. My second thought with you was because when you friend requested me and I accepted, you already sent me like a intro to yourself. And so I already knew kind of just a little bit what you did. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. And will I recommend to other people? Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I agree. So the next question I want to ask you is, what are you most likely to become famous for? I know you mentioned you're an actress, but have you ever thought about doing voiceovers?
Yeah. So I was actually supposed to get a reel done, record a reel for voiceover. And then I ended up getting sick. I ended up having COVID last year during the week that I was actually supposed to drive to Kansas City and get the reel done. And ever since then, I haven't been able to. It's just been one thing after another, taking care of children, drive. And then now I have a part-time job at my youngest son's school. Um, but yeah, I've always it's always in the back of my head like you need to message your agent and set up another appointment for voiceover. So yeah,
No, I agree. And the next one I want to ask you is, who do you admire and why?
who do I admire?
Well, you mentioned you started your acting career. Was there anyone that you admired that you wanted to be not like a carbon copy, but someone you wanted to follow in their footsteps?
No. So acting, it was something that I've always wanted to do ever since I was little. I remember watching like award shows and everything, and I remember just sitting there thinking like this is exactly what I wanted to do, and just watching all of them like get up and say their thank yous and blah blah blah, and then just watching movies, sitting here going like I know that I can do this. But I mean, if I had to pick one person that I admire, it is probably my mother. And she has nothing to do with the entertainment business, but my mom is a very, very strong, independent woman. Like strong. Like she always taught me, fight for what you believe in. Push yourself no matter what. You're never too old to like do the things that you love. And be kind. Give back to whomever. Like it doesn't matter. You just give back. And and just watching her, like she was a supervisor at her job for years, like 30 some odd years, and she's 68 and she still works. So it's her that gives me the drive to do what I love. So I just watch her and I'm like, that's who I want to be.
My grandfather always said to my dad, he's like, Richie, don't retire. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, finally, told me, he says, when you retire, you die. So
I have
don't,
heard that. Yes, I have heard that.
oh, I'm glad we're in the same boat on that.
It's like, well, because I've heard a lot of there was somebody at my husband's work that actually passed away, or they retired, and then like 2 weeks later they passed away. And I so it yeah, it kind of makes you think, like, do I even want to retire? Do like, yeah, you could probably retire for something, you're doing something, but always try and stay busy doing something else. Like, never just sit there and do nothing because, you never know.
No, you're absolutely right. And if you see an opportunity, take it. Don't be like one of those people where, well, if I don't meet him now, if I don't talk to this person now, I see him later, or you see him on the other side when your time's up. But first question I want to ask you is actually the reason I bring it up is I got to meet my hero, Bret the Hitman Hart.
Hmm.
About 2 weeks later, Owen Hart and the Bulldog were doing an autograph signing. And my dad was already fed up. He's like, look, we went last weekend or 2 weekends ago when we're online for 2 hours. You don't see him now, you're going to see him later. That's a bullshit excuse. If you have an opportunity to go see somebody, go and take it because life is too short of
Yeah.
saying, coulda, woulda, shoulda. If you can do it, do it. Don't make any excuses. But the reason I said that, I never got the chance to meet him, but if you watch the introduction show, I did a 10 bell salute out of respect. Kevin Conroy had actually passed away, and I
Hmm.
was really upset because he was a big part of my childhood. And have you ever had the chance to meet him? Are you familiar with his work?
Mm-mm.
Well, I would recommend this for you and your kids. Go watch the 1992 version of Batman, the animated series,
Hmm.
from 92 to, I don't know, he never stopped being Batman. So any work of Kevin Conroy from the animated series to Justice League Unlimited, to live action, he actually performed to be, sorry to sound niche, um, he had on Crisis this past episode on, I think it was Supergirl or Flash, but the
Hmm.
series was called Crisis. He did a live action of Bruce Wayne, and that was one of my favorite parts. Of course, you had Tom Lellens there, as everyone knows, Smallville. Now he
Hmm.
was there, but hearing the voice of Kevin Conroy as the iconic Batman and hearing his story, absolutely amazing. I wish I got the chance to meet him. I mean, there's so many Batmans out there. You talk about, well, a couple horrible ones. You talk about Batman Forever, where they had like bat nipples or something. It's really bad because why would he put that on a rubber suit? It was a horrible movie. Schumacher really just took that franchise and ran it into the ground. But Michael Keaton,
Hmm.
he was great.
He was.
Christian Bale, absolutely wonderful.
Hmm.
And there's let's see, Ben Affleck. He's okay. But when you think of a cartoon voice, and I'm gonna pass it over to you, name your favorite. Well, it's gotta say name my favorite, but name your favorite anime actors.
Oh, I have no idea. That's a question. That's something that you put me on the spot, and I'm like, nothing is going on here. I have no idea.
Right. Well, I give you an example. When people mention Kevin Conroy,
Mm,
hands down, Batman. When people mention Peter Collins,
mm,
Optimus Prime. When people mention Frank Walker,
mm.
Megatron. But I found out recently, do your kids like Scooby Doo?
No,
Uh,
my kids. Here's the thing. So when they were young, like super young, like really young, they watched maybe Disney, but now it's all YouTube.
yeah.
So they don't really. They won't. I have to force them to sit down and watch any kind of cartoon because it's all about the YouTube, and so now I have to limit their time on the computer because of it.
Hey, tell them to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate that.
I will.
But there's so many people that are iconic. Kevin Conroy, Peter Collins, Frank Walker. The reason I mentioned Scooby Doo is he does Fred from Scooby Doo.
Mhm.
Um, Sean Schemmel, he does voice of Goku. Chris Sabbath, Vegeta, and Piccolo. I love Dragon Ball. Absolutely one of my favorites. But there's certain people, and even if you go to movies,
Mhm.
ironic characters. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Pratt, Chris Evans,
Mhm.
Holly Berry. There's certain people where you automatically see them, and like, that's the movie that comes to mind. You
Mhm.
know, Sam Neill, so I'm throwing out there. I guess you kids like maybe or maybe not like dinosaurs. Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, Chris Pratt, of course. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I'm gonna ask you one more question. I'm gonna pass it over to you, like I promised. Well, let me ask you this: What is your?
I'm sitting here like thinking like, what do I think is coming? It's one of those things that I try not to even like think about stuff like because you really don't know what's coming on the horizon. You can hope and you can think. What do I wish? I hope that I get a bigger gig and keep going further into the entertainment, business and everything. But I try not to put it, like into words like this is what's happening because it might not. And then when someone sees this, they're like, ha ha ha, she didn't, get to where she thought she was going to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things where, like, it's a really good question and it really makes you think, but I don't have a really good answer for it because I don't know. Like, I hope, like I said, that I keep going further into the entertainment business and, I get, like, my goal is to be SAG. And so, I hope I hit that, but it could be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I don't know.
No, absolutely. Well, let me ask you this question:
Okay.
With everything you accomplished, do you have any success stories?
Well, every gig that I book, every um, movie, part that I get, it's all a success story. Having children and raising them is a success. Just being the person, the authentic person, and showing people that to like showing people that it doesn't matter how old you are, push for your goal, push, for what you believe. Just everything that you accomplish in life is a success. Like I wouldn't pinpoint one thing. It's everything. Getting agents, that was a success. Um, Turning in my auditions on time, that was a success. Just every little thing, it's a success. So I can't just pinpoint one thing. It's everything.
No, absolutely. And now I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But how can our fans and listeners follow you on social media? Are you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or any websites I did not mention?
The only ones that I'm on is Facebook and Instagram. That's the only one. Or
No,
the only ones.
absolutely. I would actually recommend LinkedIn. The more recommendations you have, the more it looks better. Or a website with recommendations too. Either way.
Yeah, I need to get a website put up, but I haven't done that yet. I'm not where like exactly where I want to be in my business, so I feel like if I jump the gun and try and get a website, put up, that it's not going to have the stuff I want on there, like a lot of stuff. So it's not going to be um like if someone clicked on it and read it, it's like, yeah, she's from St. Louis and she's an actress and here's some of her stuff. Like, I don't know. I think I need to be more like ahead, more into the entertainment, wait until hopefully I can, get bigger gigs, like it would be more interesting if I said, yeah, I was on Chicago PD or Chicago Met, you know what I'm saying? So it's baby steps that I have to take.
Well, we can definitely talk about that off the air. But stay tuned, I do have a couple questions. But our goal, if you guys like to see our part 2, our goal is to make sure to get 100 episodes. Oh yeah, again, I had a brain fart. There will definitely be a part 2 for holiday editions. But to see a part 2 for this episode, our goal is to reach 100 views. Leave your comments on what you like, what we have to change, what you would like to hear us talk about, and you get to interact with us. So definitely leave a comment. This will be played on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. Our biggest goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, 100 views. Definitely like and support and follow the hashtag, the KeithAndrewNetwork. Well, wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. Until we meet again, catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night.